So can we just break it down real quick? I'm going to quit drinking, and it's going to be a feat, let me tell you. But we do have lots of boxes that I figured we could just get right into. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, we're just going to open them all up, huh?
I think I'm going for all the rest of my boxes tonight.
Okay.
I think Head was
Let me go get my
on-
boxes,
Yeah,
all
I
right?
think he
I'm
was
gonna be
planning
right
on
back with
not
you guys. I'm
drinking
gonna-
anymore. I think tonight
Okay.
was going to be the night.
You guys chit-chat for a
So,
second?
he
I'm
wants
going
to
to
be
go and
done
grab
with
my
it.
other 2 boxes, and I'll get wasted with you in celebration of you quitting drinking. Because you have been drinking too much.
Oh, I've been drinking too much.
I'd love it if you called me and I understood what the fuck you were saying.
You are deliberately forgetting who you really are. You are deliberately forgetting who you really are.
So yeah, I'm getting into box 3 right now.
Yeah, what is it? What is it on the outside of box 3? Ooh, Maker's Mark.
Just the little neat.
I got a little Maker's Mark. Yep, we got a ginger ale.
It is in here.
I have a ginger ale at least.
Did you get a
I have
confetti in
matches.
yours?
Yeah, matches.
I have
in
matches
yours?
in mine too.
Is that for that
Yeah.
wax? Is that for that wax on top of the Maker's Mark? Did she melt that and then she just threw the matches in there? She melted
I don't
the top.
think so.
She melted the top of the Maker's Mark. You know, it's all melt like Game of Thrones style.
Yeah, I don't think
I think that's what
maybe she knew I needed some matches for this big blunt that I'm going to smoke.
Exactly. That's the problem is you want to quit drinking. Everyone wants to stop smoking, right? But then she gives us alcohol. She's supplying matches, right? It's like, just how's this gonna work?
She's a bad influence, man.
How's this gonna work?
She's a bad influence, let me tell you. Very bad influence.
All right, what did I miss?
We opened up our box, man. You're gonna be
Which one?
surprised. Number 3. Go for
Box
it.
3. All right.
I'm gonna tell you a quick story. So I got some Apple earpod phones.
Oh, cool.
What are they called?
Yeah,
You call them
earpods.
earphones,
Earpods.
even though
Earpods Pro.
Earpods.
Earpods Pro. The Pro ones.
I think I was wearing them backwards for like the first couple days.
Yeah, and that's why they weren't feeling good. Because you said your ears don't work with those, and of course your
that
ears not going to work
bitch.
if you're wearing them backwards. You know.
Tony got confettied.
Matches.
Bitch.
That matches. She gave me matches.
Tony got confettied.
Oh.
I even
that's
fucking knew it and I forgot. I told my girl, I said, I can hear that shit inside of there. I gotta be careful when I open this. And I just tore into it, man. Little stars all over the place. Thanks, Lolo.
So Head, you had,
I
you
love
had
the little
told me, You had
stars.
told me that you didn't want to do the ear pods because they didn't fit in your ear. So did you get the Pro ones that have the little rubber things on the end?
Yeah, I sprung for the pros.
Those are
they
the best.
still barely fit in my ears for some reason.
What
They
size are you rocking?
They definitely feel better now that I'm the big ones.
The
for
biggest
sure.
ones. Okay, that's what I was curious. They they do make some. I've never tried them, but they do make some like aftermarket ear thing. Like, you know what I mean, if you want more options, you know, those little rubber things.
That might be where I have to go.
If you're somebody that has absolutely huge ears that they don't make one big enough for.
Well, that's what I was curious.
Well, I always thought it was my big stupid stretched ears that would make my headphones fall out. But then I chopped my stupid earlobes off and made them all normal, and my fucking headphones still fall out. I think I just have stupid
Yeah,
ears.
just different people. I mean, that's why they make those old ones
Invalid
still,
ears.
and that's why they made these, and that's, you know, just different people's ears are definitely different. But, dude, the ear pods, I know Tony's not on board with the ear pods, but once you own a pair of these ear pods, and they're in your ear just, like, part of your life, you get up in the morning, you pop them, you know, like, they almost become an essential part of your life, you know?
Paul, I almost don't like that the music stops when you take your headphones out.
Yeah.
Can you set that to not be like that, or is that always like that?
You can control some of the different functions, you know, like when you tap and when you know what I mean? But, I mean, that's because they're trying to be like, oh, someone's asking you a question, right? And then you take it out, right, to answer them.
Paul, do I look
you know.
Do I look courteous? Do I look courteous to you?
And then
where I
doesn't-
want to stop my music because you're asking me a question?
Well, and we live in a
so.
time now where I don't think they thought of this when they were making it. Like nobody wants anybody to be close enough to even have a question to ask. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense anymore. All right, so is Tony getting
One
into
thing
this
I will
box,
give him
or what's
is
he
that
doing?
I don't know. What is he doing?
Man, I've spent the last 5 minutes trying to pick up little stars from everyone. Every time I grab something else out of that box, a bunch of stars fly all over the place.
Well, that's what the matchers. That's why she gave you the matches, so you can literally just burn your house down afterwards. Because there's no way you're picking up all them stars.
I know. My girl's going to come to the bed and be like, why are there little fucking glitter stars all over the bed?
So-
Where did those come from?
So let's get back to talking about then. Head wants to stop drinking tonight. So how's that working?
So I'm smashing my beers. So the other day I was doing some lawn work, and I had to work later on. I was like, oh, I could have some beers. You know what I mean? I could, probably have a beer or two. I'm doing some lawn work. I don't know. I'm a man. So I start drinking, and next thing you know, I've had like 3 or 4 of them oil cans.
The Fosters.
And then I'm like, I still got to go into work for the day. So, I don't know. It's just,
Yeah, I don't.
it's getting crazy.
What do you think, Tony? Can he do it?
I think when Head puts his mind to something, he can do it. This one's a little tough for him, I think, But I think, too, when enough people look at you and say, hey, man, yeah, maybe you should quit drinking. Yeah.
Well, I
That
told
tells you something,
Head
you
I would
know?
do it with him because I think if you
Head's-
do it together, you know what I mean. I don't have the
Head's
luxury.
told me,
yeah, I unfortunately kind of do the straight Monday through Friday grind, so I don't have the luxury on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely. I don't need the extra calories, and the problem with that beer is it's just like you just want the taste of it. You know what I mean? You just get that taste on your lips, and I don't need the extra calories, so I'm down with quitting if you want to.
I think Head just likes to get wasted. I don't know if it's always a taste
But I mean, how many
thing,
beers do you have to? That's what I'm saying with this beer, though. That's what I'm saying. How many beers do you have to drink to be wasted? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a lot of beers.
Of those oil cans, you only need about 3.
The other day, you tested it out. That was it. And then you had to take a quick nap for work. You were all
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So on that note, let's start drinking because I
Okay.
would like to maybe do the first box, number 4 in the middle of the episode and 5 at the end.
okay. Put it a little.
All right, so we're going to start this
All
with Maker's Mark, huh? That's what's
got
going on
it.
in the box
Yeah,
number
let's
3?
do it.
Let's do it.
We got a little makers. Hey, Tony, what are you going to do with your matches?
That's a nice.
I'm not sure yet. I was kind of wondering the same thing when they came out of there. I've noticed that Lola likes to gift matches.
Yeah,
it's weird.
She's messing.
Yeah,
with
what's
us.
it about? Is there a reason behind? No, I like matches.
I don't
Matches
know.
are matches are
I
nice.
said
They-
she,
you know
I
what?
think
Her
she-
matches from different packages have come in handy on actual multiple occasions. So I'm definitely not going to hate on Lolo's matches, but I do think it's interesting that whenever you get a box from Lolo, there's some matches in there too.
I think she likes like the weirdness of it. It's like, oh, you could light
It
stuff
is
on
weird.
fire or whatever,
It's definitely weird. And again, I was like, all right, matches, but I didn't like throw them back in the box as garbage. I set them aside to go put in the box or the drawer of matches that Lolo sent to us.
That's how you do it.
All right. Well,
All right,
let's do this
so
Maker's.
Maker's
Makers.
Mark it is.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Salute.
My third to last shot.
Now, what's the goal, though? I mean, you're just to stop drinking forever. I mean, is that is that what we're going for? To never ever have a drink ever again, or? I guess that's my.
I don't know if
question.
that's a legitimate request right
Yeah.
now, but I think that if he could say like a month or two, you know.
That's what I would put a date at least to it, because I think if you just leave it open ended.
Why don't you actually do this, Head? I've got a good date, man. We're gonna go visit Head in Borrego March 9th or 10th.
Uh-oh.
Why don't you say until March 9th or 10th you don't drink, and then when we get together we'll have a couple beers.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
That's a good
All
idea.
right.
Sure.
That sounds like a plan. You know what I mean?
And we'll do a weekly update.
And a
we'll
few
kinda
weeks,
go from
3-4
there.
weeks like that, that's a good amount of time to get some clarity and some cleansing in, you know?
So
I can dig that.
I will definitely eat some mayonnaise if I slip up though.
That-
But I don't plan on slipping up. but I definitely will take any punishments you guys.
I think we just be honest about it. I don't even think we put a punishment.
We'll just call you a loser. That's all. You don't like to be a loser, so we'll just call you a loser.
That's it.
So Paul, you're in on this too, then,
Yeah,
right?
let's
So you're
do
not
it.
going to drink
I'll
it
do
all
it
until
till then, yeah.
We'll say it's the 10th of March.
Yeah, my let's see, I've got my son's birthday is
just shy of a month.
First week of March, so yeah, that's perfect. I'll go right up to that point, and yeah, we'll see how we can do it.
You're like, and then I'm gonna get wasted for my son's birthday.
Yeah, I just like I said, it's just the routine of the beer, you know what I mean? And that's where, like I said, I don't need it anyway. It's just extra calories that I've got to get out there and run, or you know, it's unnecessary. If you think about it, right, Header?
Well, that's I guess kind of what I'm saying. You know, I just spend too much time sitting around drinking when I could be, like, I know it sounds silly, but like, you know, I could be Rubik's cubing or something like that and practicing, getting faster on my cubes. Like, and I'm just sitting here getting wasted. You know, I'm also cubing too, but you know, I could be being more productive for sure.
Not being as progressive.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure I'm just like irritating the fuck out of my wife.
Yeah.
She's definitely.
I can
getting
see
sick
that.
of me.
I can see that. I've had some
Today
interesting Skypes from you late night.
Yeah. Today I was drunk at a sandwich shop and I was fucking with this cop, and he had just ordered a sandwich and I was talking about pasta salad with him and stuff, and then I ended up buying him a brownie, and like Lola went and ran and put it in his bag and stuff. And then I was like, oh shit! I go, Lolo, there's a smoke shop next door. Let's go get some blunt wraps. And I looked to the cop and I'm like, you need some blunt wraps? And he's like, no, I'm good. You know, so you know that was like at noon today when I was like wasted.
Lo didn't like
and
it.
I'm running around. Well, she didn't mind. She was laughing. You know, and I'm running around the town, fucking with cops. You know, making them smile and giggle. But yeah, it's just getting out of control.
It'll make your.
Man, I'll join you guys on this little venture, but I gotta admit that I don't do a lot of drinking. For me to say I'm not gonna drink until March 8th is like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't drink a whole lot.
Well, we got it. Yeah.
You know?
Then we
I'm not gonna try to quit smoking again. We already learned that didn't work. So
figure that piece out.
Not gonna lie to myself or you guys again anytime soon.
Tony, you want to know how pathetic I am with the smoking? Lolo got me a pair of boxers from my Beneath company, which is like the boxer company that I always wear. They're all expensive and shit, and those little ones. But she got me some, and she's so nice. She got me some, and they just have little camels on them. And instantly, I look at this gift from her, and I go, I want to smoke a cigarette. I saw the camel. I literally want to smoke a cigarette instantly. I want to have a cigarette. Like, I'm so pathetic. She's giving me a gift, and I want to smoke a cigarette because it has a camel on it.
See?
That's funny, man.
Tempting you.
Smoking's hard, man.
Tempting you, giving
Smoking's
Tony
hard.
matches. That's what I'm saying. She's tempting us.
I know. I need to
Giving
quit
us liquor,
smoking
that's
more
what I'm
than
saying,
anything
liquor.
in my life. But it's hard, man.
She knows.
That's for sure. I've got everybody in my life telling me I need to quit smoking, and still it's hard.
She's got all of us. All right, well, here we go. So this episode, I'm marking it down.
Okay.
This is going to be the first of
got-
our...
Hedrick, you got 2 more shots and whatever you can fit in between.
You better get swinging away because I got some questions. So we decided to do this. Actually, you know, I think I came up with this idea, and these guys thought I was crazy, but I thought we'd just dive in a little bit to each one of us because I don't really know Tony, and I don't know the story behind him meeting my brother. You know, probably our 3 or 4 listeners out there that listen, you know, probably don't even know, you know, relations and how we're how we're related and whatnot. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about the I have on here titled it The Life of Hedrick O'Malley. I don't know if Tony's ever heard of Hedrick O'Malley.
Oh yeah, you
If
kidding
the
me?
O'Malleys.
That's how I met him.
Paul, you made me sad
Uh-oh.
when I read that thing, when I read our Google Docs and it said that you always wanted a brother. I was like, aw.
Well, that's why I started it off as that, because for some odd reason, like, I was like starting to type stuff out, and then Tony, the first thing after I put I always wanted a brother, if you notice on there, is for some reason our mom would she told us all this. Now, whether any of this is the truth, but I was told that when my friends would come over, the first day we brought Head home, we lived at this apartment, and you're 4.5 years younger than me, right? About 4.5.
Yep.
And when my mom brought him home, Tony, supposedly he had an extra large head. This is where the name Head came from, like for our baby. And my mom said all the kids that came over to hang out, and play with me, would say, "Oh, this is your new little brother. Oh, he's got an unusual size head. He's a little bit larger head." Now, I don't know if my mom's making this up or what, right? Like, what little kids, like what little 5-year-old? Think about, I'm about 5 right at this time. What other kids that are running around the apartment complex are gonna be like, "Oh, that baby's head's big"? I mean, maybe, right? But
I think I heard a different
okay,
version
so tell me. So
of
we'll
this.
start with that piece, but that's what I'm saying to kind of.
Well, you know what though, to
Yeah.
cut it and say from my perspective, I've known the guy 10 plus years, and I've thought a couple times like, man, where'd the name Head come from? But I've never asked him, and I've never actually, I don't know, I've never gotten to the bottom of it. And I always kind of thought it was more of an industry thing or something that where it came from. I didn't realize it actually came from childhood, and that makes it even better that it's not some nickname. It's because he did have a big ass head.
It kind of came from us making fun of him later on about the head. So the name itself didn't come from when he was a baby, but for some reason I can remember as early as that right head. I mean, that's what we were told, that even as you as a younger kid had a big head.
I don't think I got out, Paul. I don't think I got. I don't think I got out of the hospital before they were like, "Oh, I think one of my aunts, I think it was Aunt Lori or something, was like, something's wrong with that kid's head, And I think it was just they had kind of pulled on it and morphed on it, and they had like bleeding under the skin or whatever, that hematoma or something like that. So it's just swelling.
Yep.
But yeah, they said I looked like I had like they said I looked like one of the little conehead bababies.
Yeah, conehead.
When they're like
in
in the coneheads where they have
Conehead.
the little baby and it has the little bonnet on the conehead.
That was kind of from the beginning, Tony, is I think that's where just everybody started saying he has that big of a head, but I don't even think he has that big of a head compared to me or anybody else. I just think it runs in my family. My kids' heads are huge, you know what I mean? So I think it's just, I think it's hereditary. I think it just runs in our things. But I put down a couple things, of our childhood, that kind of I remember, because we could go on and on and on. This could be a conversation 4 or 5 hours long, but I wanted to touch on a few things. I just remember my brother, so moving forward into getting into childhood with him, I just always remember him, Tony. I was the pussy. He was the toughest kid I ever knew. I mean, he didn't cry when he got hurt. He didn't, he was just always this tough kid. And I remember my dad was into boxing, and my dad got these boxing gloves for us at this yard sale, like big adult boxing gloves, and he would put them on us and teach us how to box and stuff. I mean, and even me being 4.5 years older, I was constantly terrified that he was just going to knock the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? He was just always that tough kid. And one of the biggest things, we've talked about this on past episodes that we don't have on the podcast anymore, but we talked about one time when he was young, Tony, and he was riding a skateboard on his knees, and like where you push, and someone threw something in front of it, and he just completely went straight over, stands up. He was probably like 6 years old, 7 years old, and his arm is just in like bending straight down. He had just broken his arm, and he never shed it. He just never shed a tear. He never.
It's funny to hear these stories though too, and to hear that you looked at him as the tougher brother.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of thought he was a pussy.
That's what I mean.
I just know the soft side of him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe as he's gotten older, he's gotten a little softer. And by no means do I actually think that Head is like a pussy. I think that if somebody came at him, Head would try to defend himself, but he's just a soft, gentle guy. I don't see him going to anybody.
Doug,
He's going to make peace before he goes to
pussy,
somebody.
for sure. I am definitely a pussy. No, for
And that
sure.
makes me wonder, like, how big of a pussy is Paul that he thinks you're the tough guy?
Dude, that's what I'm trying to say. Is I think when I was sitting down writing this out, I think I came to terms with that I now understand that I'm a super baby. But what I'm trying to explain is, Tony, I don't know if my brother, once again, I don't know what you don't know. I don't know if you know, but when he was younger, he had this thing called Perthes disease. Have you ever heard of it before? And
No.
It's the craziest thing. I put it up in the Google Doc, And what it is head. Why don't you explain it? It's where your hip bone goes into into its socket. Is that correct?
Yeah. So normally,
I
like,
remember you
between your-
talking about your hip bone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
ahead.
between your
Go
hip,
ahead.
like at socket joint, there's usually like a little barrier of cartilage that's built up that adds padding for your hip to rotate around in its joint. There's a disease that it's mostly with young children. It's usually, I think, around the age 9 or 10 that they start dealing with it, but it's more or less there's no cartilage built up in there. So more or less what the kid is dealing with is they're walking around playing, doing sports, whatever they normally do, but they're dealing with their bones kind of more or less like grinding on each other.
Right.
So more or less eventually the kid will say, you know, I believe it was weird. I think I said my back was hurting, or maybe I can't remember. I complained about something, my back, or I think I said my leg or something. My leg was hurting. My leg hurts or something. And yeah, they took me down and they're like, yeah, this isn't good, you know. And I think it kind of.
How old were you?
I think it.
Do you remember?
Kind of. I think I was playing t-ball.
Well,
so
I
whenever you
know.
play
That's what I'm saying.
t-ball,
So, okay.
8 years old.
No.
Let's say
Eight-
seven to 10.
No,
something like that?
12?
T-ball's the very first thing. That's 5. T-ball starts at 5. So you're like like 5,
Damn.
5, 6.
It's that young, huh?
Yeah, 5, 6 is kind of
Okay.
like T-ball would be like, you know, when you first get
Yep.
into sports. That's the very first thing. So Tony, so you
That
went
makes
so
sense.
you
That
went
makes sense
down.
on
That's
there.
what I'm saying. So you first I remember you saying something hurt, so they took you to the doctor, and what did the doctor say originally? I can't remember.
I mean dude, obviously I was
Yeah.
5. I can't remember. Obviously, I'm just remembering like stuff I was told. But from what I hear, it kind of like kind of destroyed everybody. I believe my dad was a big pussy about it, and he thought I was like going to be crippled, and thought I was going to be the crippled kid or have to be in a wheelchair, and I believe my grandma was really took it pretty hard. But supposedly my mom, just kind of stuck it out, and we went to a bunch of specialists, and, she fought for the insurance to cover, the payments. I believe they weren't wanting to cover a lot of the stuff for a long time. But, yeah, they eventually put me in a brace, Tony, and it was like the best way I could explain it is like the Forrest Gump brace that he wore, but a
Yes.
more moderate, but a 90s version of it, or an 80s version of the Forrest Gump brace from the 60s, but it held my legs apart a little bit more. So it wasn't straight like Forrest Gump, but a little bit apart, which made it look even more awkward, There. But
You had you some
exactly.
special shoes,
Tony,
huh?
do you have do you
Yep.
have your Skype chat? You have your Skype chat open?
I just saw that. I saw
just
that
sent you a
picture pull
picture.
up,
So,
yeah.
Tony, what is crazy is he has to wear this brace every moment of the day, unless he's taking a shower or he's what else? That's it, right? Shower.
I think that was about it, yeah.
He had to sleep in
Even
it.
when Paul, remember when the swimming season came around, I had to get a special titanium version
yes.
that I could wear and jump in the
In the
swimming
pool.
pool with it on.
So he wore this, and I want to say he wore it for how long? 4 or 5 years or something, or 3 or 4.
Two,
Two
I think it
years?
was 2 years.
He wore this, Tony, 2
I think it was a
years.
solid 2 years.
And when he says he played t-ball, this is what I mean by my brother being tough, is that he got up to bat and he hit this ball and he would run with those braces on, left, right, like almost, I don't even know, I'm trying to explain to people, and I'm going to put a picture in the show notes so you'll see it on your podcast thing, but it's almost like if you were sitting on a saddle, right? That's a pretty good explanation. Like your legs are pushed apart. And so imagine if a saddle was between your legs and you had to run to first base, Tony. And this kid was the star of the t-ball team with the brace on. I kid you not. And I'll never forget this. And during the summer, Tony, he would jump off.
I played first base.
He would jump off the diving board. And this is what I mean by my brother. He never cried.
Did I have to walk
tear.
sideways up on the diving board?
You had to walk sideways everywhere. You kind of like if you had to get away from the police and you had to squeeze down one of those little like in between two buildings, you'd be perfect, right? That's what you had to almost like kind of do that everywhere, like to get around things, to get through things, to get, you know what I mean? And so what I'm saying, Tony, is out of those 2 years of being like however old, 5 or 6 years old, he never complained one time. That I remember hearing him. I mean, that's how tough he was. And that's what I mean by like, I just looked up to that piece because I was such a baby. I would cry over the stupidest things, you know what I'm saying? And so I always remember him as just that piece, growing up.
Well, I've got to say, fast forward 30 years, and I think he's still that dude. No, I think he's still that dude, actually.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't bitch about anything. Do I think he's a pussy? Yeah. But when I say that, it's just in a sense that, like, I think the Hedrick will avoid confrontation at almost any degree, in a sense. Whether right or wrong, or whether he should stand up for himself or not, he'll avoid confrontation. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's actually a fault of mine. But he is a pussy for it. But I've never seen him complain about shit.
Because
it's
I'll
not like
fast
life's
forward,
bad, I'm
Head.
gonna bitch. This is hurting me, I'm gonna bitch. It's
I'll fast forward to kind of how we are kind of our next chapter in our life of like how I started going to the Christian school and, and all that piece of our life. But I'll transition with it where I still remember to this day where he had to get his tonsils out because, dude, he snored like a mother. This kid, I'm telling you, growing up with him, I'll tell you one thing, dude, this kid can sleep. And he would snore like a mother.
Tony knows that.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
This kid knows how to sleep. And so fast forwarding, dude, he had to get his tonsils out because of the snoring and just, him literally gagging on his tonsils at night. But my dad would take pictures. My dad would carry a camera on. Everywhere we went, Tony, like even if we were in the hospital, my dad had to get pictures of us. Like, smile, and I still remember, you're like, get out of here. You're so pissed off, you know what I mean? Because Dad was trying to get pictures of you, and you didn't feel good. You just had gotten your tonsils out. You know what I mean? He was in there with a camera. And so the reason I segue to that, Head, is that was the first day that I went over to the Rock Church and met Kyle to play on the drums. I'll still remember that to the day. That's why I remember the tonsils, because somebody put me in the car and drove me over to the Rock Church from the hospital. I came and saw you and said, hey, and then
how wild.
And then I went over there, and that's where kind of to fast forward, how I had met, Kyle and Jessica and, yeah.
So
it's
Paul,
funny
real
that you
quick.
talk about the tonsils, because we were just talking about that earlier. Paul's been talking about how he's had an ear infection and stuff, and I had my tonsils removed when I was a kid for ear infections.
Yeah.
It's funny that they remove your tonsils for all kinds of different reasons. Did they let you keep your
crazy.
tonsils? They
No,
actually let me.
I
They
don't
let me.
think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't
They let
remember
me
that.
keep mine. I had my tonsils sitting in this little teeny fucking jar with some formaldehyde in it for almost like 10 years until I was a teenager. And at that point, the formaldehyde had really like disintegrated, and it was these two little dry, chunky tonsils sitting in a jar on top of my fridge. It's fucking gross. Yeah. But yeah, tonsils, man. Remove the tonsils. They help us all kinds of shit.
I think Lolo still has my earlobes in contact cases that I smuggled back on the
She
airport from.
fucking would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet if you unscrewed that, I bet the stank that would come out of there, it's just
I
like
bet.
rotted flesh.
They're hanging up,
disgusting.
Tony. They're hanging up next
but
to
hold
the
on.
squirrel or whatever, yeah.
Right next to Big Worm,
Yeah.
the spider. So Paul, that I was gonna say before, Tony always said his complaint about everything was we'd always say people's names. When you say
Yep.
Kyle and Jessica, you mean your brother-in-law?
Yeah,
now.
yeah. No, I was gonna
And,
get into that piece. So Tony, I ended up going from high school to I got put into a Christian school. Make a long story short, I got in trouble at this regular high school I was going to. Got put into a Christian school.
I was just gonna ask what you did.
That's I.
We'll get to that.
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah,
to that
we'll
on
do,
his
onto
episode.
my episode. We can go into that piece.
Okay.
But so I transitioned into that. That's where I met my brother-in-law,
Awesome.
which is how I met my wife. Is at this Christian school, or I guess you could say not necessarily a Christian school, but just through a church and stuff like that. So at that time, I was probably a sophomore going into my junior year of high school. So Head was 4.5 years younger than me, but I guess.
Yeah, sixth, seventh.
I
Grade.
guess that next piece head is I can't remember how you transitioned into. Did you start going to the Christian school as well?
Yeah, I think I was almost like jealous that you were going to the Christian school, and I think I was getting ready to go into high school, or I don't know. I think I was in that 8th grade,
Yeah.
9th grade kind of range, and I remember your school was just right down the street. I guess both of our schools were, but I don't know. For some reason, I wanted to go there. I think I just wanted to kind of be close to you
Yeah.
for some reason. I don't know. I for some
Big
reason, maybe
brother.
I thought it was like, yeah, I think maybe like I looked at it as like, oh, he's probably having more fun than me, so I'm going to miss out on something, even though it was probably the more sheltered. I don't know. It's weird. I've never really thought about that until now, but
I don't think either one of us knew like what to expect, right? Like going into that situation, right? Like we had never experienced anything like that, and I wouldn't say that place is normal by any means. You know, what a normal place, a normal school would be. And we can maybe get into that my next episode if you want to talk about that piece. But I guess going into that next piece head, I wanted to talk about like what you thought about. Like how, first off, I can't remember when you started playing the bass. That's what I wanted to know, is kind of go back and, you know, think about when did you start getting into music? Because I had already been in that. I met Kyle, my brother-in-law. We started jamming, Tony. That's kind of was the first band I was in. Is that kind of...
You know what's interesting about that, though, too, because we've talked about that previously, Head playing the bass and stuff, and that's something I didn't know about Head until recently.
Oh, okay.
And our whole 6 or 7 years of us being friends in the beginning of our friendship, which I mean was pretty in depth, man. Me and Head did some weird shit in the beginning. I never knew that he I never knew that he played music. I never knew that he played bass. And what's funny about that is that I mean, as we've talked about, we're both percussionists, and my favorite thing in the world, the people I draw to the most musically, are always bassists. And it's funny that me and him have never even like sat down. I don't know how much bass you've played in the last 10 years or so, but it's just funny that how tight we are. We've never even attempted or thought about even playing music together.
Wow. Yeah.
You know?
Do you want to know honestly probably why?
Why?
And I can answer Paul's question and your question all in one.
Yeah.
I think the only reason that I literally tried to play music was to be like my brother.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's true.
I don't know. I think I tried to play. I think I started playing drums when you started playing drums. I think we had that guy come over and give us drum lessons.
Yeah.
And I think I was included just because I was sitting there saying,
Yeah.
"Well, I want to play drum." You know.
Yeah.
I want to bang on something. You know.
I
and
started
think
playing
they
drums
just
because my
naturally-
sister played drums.
Yeah.
How
Same
funny.
type of thing,
Yeah.
you know. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I want to play the drum.
Yeah.
But
And
I kind of
just
feel
eventually
like
once
too.
Paul-
I think what you need to remember, Head, and this is how I remember it. I think too, this was because remember, Tony, I've always said, my brother hung out with my friends. We just were a crew together.
Right.
We just considered him. I just considered him one of my friends, just like all the other friends. So all these friends around
But
me,
dude,
right,
that's
Head?
weird though.
What I'm saying is all those friends around us played music. We had Paul Fetters, we had Random
That's
Files,
true.
we had... So I think what happened is we were just so surrounded with musician-type people. I think you had to just get into it, because I remember you playing with Paul Fetters a lot, you know?
true.
Started
Yeah,
jamming
I
with
did.
him.
I
Yeah,
think
I did a band with him.
I think
Yeah.
Paul, that sometimes you look past though to the. Yeah, I think sometimes you forget that you really are the big brother.
Yeah.
Though.
Sure.
You know, because even like you just said, you always kind of looked at Head and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, he's a tough one, he's a tough one, he's a tough one. But even talking to Head, and always since I've talked to Head, he's always looked at you as the big brother.
Oh,
I mean,
always, for sure.
definitely. You know what I mean? The first time that I met you, I was almost kind of intimidated by you because I was like, oh, this is Hedrick's big brother. Like, oh, shit. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
don't
he's
know
big
why,
shit.
yeah.
And then I ended up getting all fucked up and fucking rambling off into the night of Las Vegas someplace. Crazy fucking night. But yeah, again, it was Hedrick's big brother, and I've always gotten that vibe from Head that Hedrick definitely looks up to you and doesn't look at you as like, I don't want to say not an equal, but he does look at you as the big brother. He looks up to you.
But what was
you know?
so cool about him is he never tried. He always was unique in his own ways. Meaning he went out there and just was friends with my friends, and it really had never had anything to do with me. It never had to, is what I'm saying. Like he just was friends with my
But
friends.
Paul, it's
you know.
But Paul, it's weird. It's weird for a big brother to even be okay with that, or even let that happen, though.
I don't know.
Wouldn't you
I
say,
guess,
like-
but I think we grew up. I guess that's what I'm saying. We grew up just like making those movies together, and once again, we can get into that with my type, with when we talk about me. But we just always made you and I just did stuff together. We made the movies together. We did you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I didn't think of
I
it
don't
any
think that's
differently.
weird at all.
You know, I didn't think of it any differently as anything else. You know, it
Yeah.
never crossed
I think
my
as a
mind.
big brother,
to
he
be
probably
honest with
wanted you to be in good hands and probably trust his friends. My sisters were 7 and 9 years older than me, and their friends would come around, and I'd hang around with them. Not that I was hanging out with them, but my sisters were cool with that. You know what I mean? They wanted me to hang out with them and learn good shit from them and
Yeah,
know that
I don't
was around
even.
good
I don't
people
even
that
remember. Do you
respected
ever
them
had
enough
like?
to be good to me?
Do you ever remember Ed, of like a time where we even got into it about the friends and stuff? I don't even remember ever where we even fought about anything like that. The friends would come over, whoever it was, and we just always was like, "Hey, what's up? Let's do so." We just all hung out and listened to music, and you know, and so that's where. So you got into playing bass, and the reason I wanted to talk about that is because I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what got you into bass, which you're saying now just because you were surrounded by me and everybody else, but what?
I think so. I mean, I think that's the main thing. Obviously, like I always, and one thing I will talk about, like I always had a memory with me and you growing up. It's like we would always listen to music together in our rooms, and like we had one of those like Nerf basketball hoops with like the little sponge ball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they got like, you could get the nicer quality Nerf
Yeah.
thing that would fit, that's the one we had with the nice ball, and we would have little like basketball, and we'd be like jamming Nirvana, or you'd be listening to like Appetite for Destruction
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like, I don't know, like I have distinct memories of you in that garage, like in the redesigned garage room, and us doing stuff out there. But there was always music going, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think I don't know. Like, I think I even talked about, like, you had, like, the, you were so into stuff, like, you had, like, the, Tony will like this, you had the Primus cover on your retainer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
very interesting. That was back like when you had to wear a retainer after braces, Tony, And for some
I should have saved that for your episode.
I had that too,
but
man. Yeah. I had a big old 8-ball on mine.
Yeah, for some odd reason. I don't even know what it was. They're like, "Oh, do you want to put a picture on there?" And I'm like, "Oh, you can?" You know what I mean,
Yeah,
right?
fuck
You're
yeah.
like, so I don't even know why I brought that. Yeah, I think it was that pork soda, I think is what it was. The
It's
the
like
face of the
customizing
bubbles.
your
Yeah.
pager case.
Or selling the seeds of cheese. I can't remember, but either way. But that's what I mean, Head. We always,
So just little,
we always had music going.
or even we'll get in even to the reason, like, why you went to the Christian school and how you got in trouble.
Yeah,
like, that stuff like that, and this like the concerts that we went to and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like the music was definitely around us a lot, and I don't know if that is because of our dad or if that was just mostly because of you. I don't know where that all came from. I can such a
Yeah. I can tell you that
such an important part.
I can tell you that the next piece, Tony, is going to that Christian school. We met all these people to finally going to this thing called Revolution. We all got invited to this thing. I can't even remember how it ended up happening, but it was a church that was trying to not be a church. It was out on the Indian reservation, out of like a camper, like a double wide, basically.
You know what they
Yeah.
call
So
those,
Tony-
right?
What do they
That's
call-
called a cult.
Well, listen, that's where once again, yeah.
So Tony, Paul,
Yeah.
Tony's from Arizona, so
Okay.
he knows where like kind of
Okay.
Tony, like east of Pima Road. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
okay.
out
Yeah,
there
the
where it gets
reservation.
That's where I used to go buy my cigarettes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly,
Out
yeah.
there where it gets a little weird.
And so
But yeah,
they would have they had a double wide out
for
there, and then what they had, Tony, is what was the coolest thing
That
ever.
sounds so horrible,
Dude,
dude. This
Yes.
sounds like a child peddling ring.
Well,
Like, this
listen,
sounds
it was
so
so
bad
crazy
already.
because what they had that was so cool.
This was the coolest part of religion I've ever.
Yeah.
This is the best part of religion
So-
that I ever experienced. Honestly.
So this
My cult
was a guy that had this double wide, and he lived out there with his wife, and they ran this church. And Tony, the coolest part was they had a half pipe, and they also had this old barn that they turned into like this thrift shop, right? You could bring your clothes in and stuff. And that was back when like Buffalo Exchange was cool and stuff, right? Back in the days. And they would have a DJ play or some kind of concerts.
There was a coffee shop.
There was a coffee
there,
shop,
usually.
right? You could go into there and get, it was
pastries
when
or
coffee
whatever.
first started getting popular and stuff. And so that's how they got the kids to come, So Revolution was the first time, even that head, I guess is what I'm saying, is we were constantly engulfed in even the music there. You know what I'm saying? The bands would come, Tony, and the cool bands would come. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd have a Christian screamo hardcore band instead of a praise and worship band. Like a church band. So we loved it. We ate it up. But I think that's where I wanted to kind of get into that piece of Revolution, playing bass. And the question I wanted to say with the bass piece, and we'll get off the music, is do you remember an experience or anything where the bass was something that kind of, revolutionized something, or seen a concert or something, or just something where music, because Tony, music is still, obviously, I would say maybe today more important in my brother's life than it is even mine. Like you said, we were always listening to music.
It's a huge part of his life.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's weird because I never knew him as somebody that played music, just somebody that enjoyed and appreciated music.
And so I'm wondering if, playing the bass, if you can remember a part of that time when you played bass in our childhood and stuff, something where it kind of was more of a spiritual type thing, or something where you're like, wow, this is, do you kind of know what I mean? Something where you can remember that really like a concert or something, for music that kind of shaped the way you like music today.
I don't know if anything would. I don't know if I would say that like there was any experience that would make me want to play the bass or want to get into music specifically. But there was definitely stuff like I don't know, like seeing that band MXPX, when the little Christian punk rock band, and like we were at the show and they were playing, and the crowd was, once again, this was at a small church. They packed way too many kids into this little tiny area. The sound system sucked. There was no stage, so the microphone was literally right where the people, the microphones started where the kids could stand.
Yeah.
And eventually, somebody pushed the microphone, and it smashed into the guy's face, and it chipped his tooth.
I remember that. Yeah.
And half of his tooth got chipped off. And I think he was kind of a pussy about it. And was like,
he was mad.
We're done. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Which, dude, of course, you're playing some
Crappy
shithole place without
Christian
a stage.
punk rock, man.
Yeah, but yeah, you could be a little bit tougher and more punk rock about it. But I don't know.
I thought that whole shit
like,
was interesting. Again, not even knowing amongst the fact that Hedger played bass, but then hearing about the whole Christian band thing, and like even you. Honestly, knowing Head and not knowing that he played music and the whole Christian Academy thing previously, I've learned about it in years past, but I just would have never thought. And then hearing that you were in like a Christian band, you guys actually were right there next to like getting signed in a sense, and like you guys did some shit. You played some big shows. I'm like, really? Like I'm not a very religious person. I'm not an anti-religious person. I was raised in I would say my parents are Christian. They're religious, but it wasn't super pushy in a sense. And I led away from religion at an early age. You know what I mean? Religion is not really a thing for me. It's, I'm open to everything, but I don't believe in anything. So hearing that you guys had such a deep Christian past, not just like you went to church a little bit, like it was a deep Christian past, to the point where I think that Head today still holds on to shit where he's like, fuck you guys for trying to make me believe in this. Whereas I think that maybe you, Paul, from my recent learning of you, is maybe like it was more of your life up until recent past, and now maybe you're in different thoughts of different directions. But it's interesting to me. Again, nonetheless, I just never saw such a deep Christian group behind you guys and knowing Head.
Because I think it's a good transition to the next piece, Head, of going into like me getting married, me leaving, to where now you didn't have a brother there anymore. This is where probably I feel like the story really gets, where I can ask some questions about that piece of, even with the religion side of things, you know what I'm saying? Not to get too deep, but,
oh, for sure.
What made...
How old were you, Head, when Paul got married? How old were you?
I think I was,
you were 16, yeah, 15 and a half or 16?
18,
15 and a half or 16.
Okay, that just puts a time perspective.
Yeah, so I leave off and get married, and now you're,
So Paul, I think I was kind of already. I think I was already smoking cigarettes with Paul Fetters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sitting down at Jamaican Blue coffee shop,
which is
hanging
funny,
out.
Tony. We'll put a thing to Paul Fetters. Paul Fetters was a buddy of mine, and what was so funny is he was the pastor's son from the Christian school we went to.
Of fucking
Do you
course.
see it? You know what I'm saying? So here's Head, right? He's about to tell a story about. He's like, it all started back with. the pastor's kid. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, but that's what I mean by that point is. When I left Head,
I could go.
When I left, I guess what I want to set
I could go
it,
a step further.
What I want to set it up as is when I left.
Chris Dirksen.
Oh yeah.
And Chris Dirksen was another one that I started hanging out with around that age. Also a pastor's kid.
Which is
so which I think that's why I was allowed to be out running around town with these kids that were 7, 6, 5, 10 years older than me when I was still 15 years old.
Because you got to think Paul Fetters was
mean?
another year or two older than me. So you see what I'm saying? He was 7 years. Yeah, so you're running around, Tony. He's 15 and a half, 16 years old, doesn't even barely have a driver's license, and he's running around like 22-year-olds. You know.
Getting arrested with Paul Fetters because we have a truck full of pumpkins and shit that we've stolen out of people's yards that because we just lit a scarecrow on fire in North Scottsdale. And it's blazing in front of somebody's house, and then eventually, once it burns enough, now it looks like there's just a burning cross in front of somebody's house.
Oh shit!
Because it's just the structure of the scarecrow. Oh,
That's
man,
so bad.
So stupid. We got caught with like 24 or 28 pumpkins in the back of Paul Fetter's truck. And they had to like escort us over to the back of a grocery store, and we had to throw all the pumpkins in a trash can. And then since I was underage, they made me call my mom, and they're like, hey, this is, the Scottsdale police. Your son's over here with a truckload of 28 pumpkins. Running around the neighborhood.
What a stupid thing to get arrested for.
But I guess,
sure.
Head, I guess what I'm saying is I don't ever remember Mom being very strict on, you know what I mean? What did she do? I mean, it wasn't like she got you in trouble, did she? I mean,
that's the thing. No, I don't even think I got in trouble.
I don't
for it,
remember you ever
but
getting
once
in any
again,
trouble for any of this stuff. Yeah.
Paul. But once again, I was like 14, 15 years old. You know what I mean? And she knew I was already kind of out of the. I don't know. I think she already knew I was kind of out of the house. I think she knew I was a little bit different from you.
I guess
I think
what I'm
she
saying,
knew
that's
I was.
what I'm asking. You're telling me at 14 and a half or 15 years old, you're telling me
she knew I was
that
gone.
you were
I
getting
think
ready
she
to
knew
go.
I was different.
I
think she knew I was different. I really honestly do. I bet you could. When she calls either of us, we'll ask her.
I don't know, man. I think too that sometimes as parents go on. I mean, my parents loved me to death, but by the time I came around, they were definitely just like, I don't know. I don't want to say tired, but kinda. It was just like, oh fuck it, man. Just let him eat what he wants to. Like, just make him happy. Just shut him up. Whatever it'll take to just like make him happy, so we don't got to deal with it. Just do that, and we got to work, and we're not gonna be here. And
but Tony, this is also the lady that adopted 25 kids after I was out of the house.
That's true.
So that's true.
So she wasn't
So
that
that's
tired.
what happened, Tony. So I left, and then what happened was my mom ended up adopting our.
Which
my
is
mom,
awesome.
Yeah,
Good for her.
it's good. My mom ended up adopting our sister. We have an adopted sister, right? And so what happened with that piece is, I think Head was left now as be in this transition point of his life, and I guess that's what I was saying. Head is you knew at that point, kind of 15, 16 years old, you were ready to go and move on.
I think I just saying I think that was the vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think compared to you, where I think you hung out a little bit longer and stuff like that. But But not really though. I mean, I don't know. Not really. But I just compared to me, I think she knew I was gonna always. I bet you could almost guarantee that she probably knew I was gonna be the one that would like kind of move away, or do something weird, or be different, or I don't know. Maybe she could even guess that I would like cover my whole body in tattoos and stuff I don't know. Like she probably knew I could just I would probably just be a little bit.
So
different.
were you So did you, when you, I know you left and you kind of told that story, but were you already involved in the piercing and tattoo scene at that moment? Like when you had left that early on?
Yeah.
You were
Yeah,
already
so,
kind of like working like under the table kind of stuff?
That was kind of
Yeah.
part of the whole thing. I mean, she didn't want me working over there, and I was like, I was smoking cigarettes and coming in like, in the in the wee hours of the morning and stuff like that. And then she also had the new adopted sister of ours. Hey, just so you guys know, I'm such an alcoholic. I'm already opening up my last box.
What do you mean? What happened to box number 4? You already drank it?
I already
He
did
said
it.
we were gonna wait till
What
halfway
is it? Why didn't you
through.
at
We're
least tell
almost
us?
there. I know. He's
I would have done
I
it
got-
with
I
you.
was getting,
He's
I was
sneaking
getting
him in the back.
emotional.
Oh, he was getting emotional.
I was getting emotional when Paul was talking, or when it was all starting. It was hard to listen to, so I had to get into it.
This fucking guy.
That's fine.
Let's do the next box real
fine.
quick. Let's take
Well,
an
we
intermission.
still gotta catch
Where
up
are we
on
at
number
right now?
4.
You just keep going.
Where are we going right
you
now?
just keep going with your next box. Why can't you just keep going with your box?
Okay, what am I talking
Yeah,
about?
me and Paul will
I
catch
guess,
up.
I guess what I wanted to know is kind of that next transition piece. Is I don't remember really how you got into piercing. I don't even remember how you even got down to like
okay,
club
yeah.
tattoo or like really into any of that kind of stuff. But it wasn't club
Dude,
tattoo
my
as at
friend-
first, right?
My friend Joe Conti.
Joe, that's right. Okay, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a weird dude. I don't remember how I met him. Very like Italian dude. I'd like spent the night at his house. And we went out and partied, and like I don't know. He was like the first one to like take me to like a house party, and like
Yeah.
we drank 40s and got fucked up and smoked weed together, and just like that kind of friend. That was like my first guy. Took me to like first experience like doing drugs and eating ecstasy, back in the day, and I don't know, just a person that was like always there for me. His dad owned a tattoo shop. He was put in charge of running the place, and he pierced, and he would invite me down, and we'd hang out at the shop. I got a piercing when I was underage. I can't remember what it was, my eyebrow.
That's what I was going to ask you. What your first piercing was?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. My tongue or my eyebrow or something. I can't remember.
But you had a piercing before you had a tattoo. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I was hanging out down there so much. He was like, "Hey, man, you could probably." He goes, "With your personality," he goes, "you could probably run this place." He goes, "Would you want to give?" He was working down there a lot. He goes, "Would you want to run the shop when I'm gone?" Because he'd like say, "Hey, watch the shop. I'm gonna go."
Yeah. So you
run
already
there.
basically were
keep an eye
doing
on the
it.
place.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah,
Made
but it was
official. Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I was
Yeah,
14,
yeah.
15 years old at
Yeah.
the time. You know what I mean? So I'm hanging out in a tattoo shop, right next to ASU, literally university and university and mill.
And I think Tony too. With our family owns that sign shop. So we grew up working at that sign shop. You know what I'm saying? So like when it came
Right.
to like
Right, I've
people
heard about
walking
that.
in and us saying like, "Oh, how can we help you?" Like and look at Head. I mean, he's never been shy. Right, so I
Oh,
can
Head's
just imagine
got
a
that hustle
14-year-old
mentality,
Head.
yeah.
It's probably like, "Hey, how's it going? Come on in." You know how he is. Just
Mm-hmm.
naturally,
Yeah.
Everybody loves him.
I mean, so after a year, man, and there being problems with the piercer and stuff like that, at the shop, he eventually said, "Hey, would you?" I was I was running the counter for 6 months or so. He goes, "Would you want me to teach you how to do some basic piercings? Would you do it?" Basically this guy's smart. He's running a business, Tony. You could understand. He's like, "Hey, I'll teach this kid how to fucking do this shit. I'll leave his ass here." You know what I mean? And I'll fucking hang out, go and do whatever I want. So more or less, he teaches me. He knows I have the personality for it. I kill it. You know what I mean? I jump on it. I'm
Yeah.
doing everything. I'm showing up early.
Yeah.
I'm doing homeschool. I'm doing homeschooling at this time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I can be
Yeah.
there. I can be there anytime I want. And I'm not really doing homeschooling, to be honest with you. You know,
Right.
we could talk about that, but that's why I'm dumb. Thanks. Thanks, private Christian school. Appreciate
So
you guys.
you got into that piece. Were you instantly like inspired like about the art piece of it and like tattooing and the artistry of all this?
I loved it. I loved it. But at the same time, like you know what I mean, there was certain parts of it that I loved that necessarily, weren't necessarily the best. I don't know. The only
it's
time
a
that I
fun
got arrested,
industry, man.
yes,
There's all kinds of
weird,
fun and
there's
fun
weird
people,
stuff
weird
going
people,
on,
and yeah.
I guess what I'm
Yes.
saying, Head,
And
is
that-
coming from Tony. What I'm saying is, let's rewind like 2 years earlier. Here he is playing in the Christian bands, right? And then here we
Right.
are, a year and a half later, he's now out, right, getting to experience this scene. Do you think that,
Well, I bet
contributed
playing
to one
within the
another?
Christian
Yeah.
bands in itself too. Yeah, I do, because I think the Christian bands
Yeah.
in itself, although it's a Christian band, there's still shit that falls in line with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because you're Christian doesn't mean you don't do weird shit. And you get a bunch of people that are at a Christian punk rock show, you're still going to
Yeah.
get weird people that do weird shit that lead away from that whole thought and train of thought. I don't know. I think that the weird part more attracts Head than probably the Christian part of it. So it was like, oh, they all believe in God and they're praying over here. And Head's like, well, these guys over here are smoking some weed and they look like they're having real fun. Like, what's going on over in that corner? Maybe I don't know. Not the tattoo
I'd almost
piercing
say-
side of it, but more the alternative side of it and leading away from what the church was, I guess. But
Paul, can I tell you that show that you took me to in Phoenix, and I think it was like Unashamed and Overcome. It was like a bunch of like just like tough, super tough, like super Christian hardcore bands. That was awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
these kids were like that. That was cool.
Yeah.
I don't like what a church is about. You know what I mean? I was doing that. I was playing at those churches and doing the youth groups and doing the playing the music on Sunday morning. And then, certain people would just say like, hey, you shouldn't wear your hat inside or something. And I just like, it would just bug me. You know what I mean? And it's just like, what am I doing here showing up 2 hours early, lugging this bass gear around? You know what I mean? Trying to practice so I don't look like an idiot. You know what I mean? And then it's like, so you can like bug me about a hat that I have on. I don't know. It's just like certain things just bug.
But do you think?
bug
But
me
I guess what
about
I'm
it,
saying
you
is,
know?
I kind of feel like the further you pulled away from that piece, I kind of feel like Mom tried to push you back towards that piece, and I guess that's what I'm saying is like, do you think at that time?
But
You-
but I don't know. Wouldn't any parent
Yeah.
be like, oh, blah blah blah? I'm concerned for you. Like I get
Oh no,
it.
I,
You know what
I
I mean?
guess
Like,
I'm not saying
I
that,
was
but I
hanging
guess what I'm
out
saying
and-
is, did Mom ever know these feelings? I guess that you felt towards that thing, because you obviously went from this like, oh, and then I can't live here any longer, and I'm out on my own at 17.
I think at 17, 18 years old, which I was
Yeah.
almost 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
Dude,
You're
I
ready.
spent one night in my car,
Yeah.
and the next day I had a spot to live, and I had a place of my,
Yeah.
I had a spot of my own. And then within like a month or so, like I had a place with a couple of my buddies. I don't know. It was time, and I think she probably knew I could handle it, or she probably wouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah.
And that's just like me being nice. But at the same time, like, dude, I don't know. I wasn't doing anything crazy, but I don't know, dude. I probably shouldn't have been in a house with a young adopted girl. I was an old man that's coming in, or an old teenager that's coming
Yeah.
in the fucking wee hours of the morning.
Yeah.
Smelling of cigarettes, probably alcohol, probably have done drugs the night before. Who knows what I have up in my room hidden? Some porn, some weed, a pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and with
I
what
don't
it
know.
sounds
I
like
think
your
that-
mom's lifestyle too, she did have a very, I don't know, pushed or real or not real, but Christian living and lifestyle. So that goes all opposed to that.
Exactly. So it's like at a certain point, it's like, I get it that she was just like, dude, get out of. I think she said like either.
That's what I was
quit
going
the
to ask you
job
is
or
how
get outta
how
here.
did that even happen? That's what I was going to ask is, did you just leave one night? You just said, I'm out of here.
I think she found something up in my
Okay,
room
yeah.
or something, and she was like, and she said like, hey, blah blah blah. She woke me up in the morning, and she's like, blah blah blah.
Got the ultimatum.
Either quit the
Yeah, the
job, more or
ultimatum.
less like, I found this, quit the job, or you need to get out
Yeah.
of here. And I was like, all right, I'll be out of here by the time you get
Yeah.
home. And then she left for work, and then I packed my
And
stuff.
I think for you too, you were kind of waiting on that piece. I think that was a good piece for you to like kick your ass and be like, all right, now it's time. Now it's time for me to get out of here.
Paul, I think probably that's my
Yeah.
like Tony was saying, like I'm a pussy. If there is any more of a thing that I probably needed in
Yeah.
my life is probably I need to jump on things before like people push me to them.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's probably still something
Yeah,
I
yeah.
face today. You know what I mean? I've worked for 20 years building up other people's businesses, and I have nothing
Yeah.
to show for it. Where if I would have pulled the trigger or actually been a little bit more assertive or played my cards a little bit more right, you know what I mean? It's like I could have.
Yeah, but you did. But you
put that
did
effort
get out
into
there at
myself.
17 years old. That is unique to get out there. You made it. You didn't come back. You didn't. You know what I mean? You weren't whining and crying about it. So you get to.
Oh, never.
You
No,
know.
I didn't talk to her for years.
You know,
what I
so
mean?
you get into this piece. You do good. Now, I guess my question is, did you know Tony here in Arizona before you guys did the Las Vegas thing? Is my question.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first time that I heard of Tony was from a friend of ours, and I can't quite remember her name.
Vanessa.
Tony Gay.
It was a mutual friend. Her name was
Oh,
Vanessa.
yeah, Vanessa.
Mutual friend. Okay.
Yeah.
A girl started apprenticing at a shop. Once again, an owner of a shop wanted to get a girl into the piercing room and wanted me to try to teach her a thing or two. And I think she said that she knew a thing or two. It didn't work out all that well, but she knew Tony. And I think that was the first time. You know, that I had
I
heard of
remember the
Tony.
first time actually pretty
And it
clearly,
was
man.
fun.
I was working at a shop down the street from Hedrick. Hedrick was working at a shop called Living Canvas right there on Mill Avenue.
Yep.
And I worked at a shop called
Mill Avenue Inc.
Mill Avenue Inc. That's right,
that
Mill
there?
Avenue Inc. I
Yeah.
went there and followed my mentor there, Will, and I was working there. And Vanessa knew Hedrick, and Vanessa came by and brought Hedrick by one day.
So were you-
I remember the first day I
Were
met
you
him. He
guys
was a little
were you guys
chunkier. He
at
was a
about
fun
the
little
same,
guy.
like part, like where your careers were at? Could I say it was your careers at that point? I guess is what I'm
honestly,
saying?
I would say no.
No?
I mean, maybe people might have seen it similar because I think we were both kind of newer into
Okay.
it, a few years in or so. But I would say, looking back on it, Head probably had more proper into it than I did at that point. I mean, a lot of mine was I had a mentor, but my mentor was all fucked up. So a lot of my learning in the beginning was definitely just hands-on. You learn from your mistakes type shit.
Now,
Maybe Hedrick had the same thing,
feel-
but I don't know.
I feel the same way.
That's funny.
The guy that taught me, I was so shaky at the beginning. The guy that taught me, he goes, you need to eat this, before you pierce again.
Was it
And
like a
was
Valium?
some kind of Valium, muscle relaxer, whatever. You know what I mean? And that was that. And I ate the Valium. You know, I ate whatever it was, some kind of muscle relaxer. And next thing you know, I did about 2 or 3 awesome piercings in my first like 20 piercings. You know, that you know.
It's
and
funny
I
how
think that-
mentors in that industry back then could be like that. Because my mentor that I followed to Mill Avenue Inc., I started running Mill Avenue Inc., and the reason why was because Will, my mentor, had gotten chased into the shop by a group of cops because he was fucking with some meth sales down the street and got chased all the way in there and arrested in our lobby and hauled away. And the owner was like, "Well, you want to help me run this place?"
so how
And I
old
started-
were,
I
how
started
old
helping
were
manage
you
there, yeah.
guys when you met one another then? So what's the age?
24, 25. I've got to say that I'm pretty sure on that because I know that's when I moved back down to Phoenix.
And so,
I was
Tony,
around
at
20,
that-
24 to
and
26.
So at that time, you were already doing piercings, is what you were doing?
Yeah, I was heavily involved too. I was running Mill Avenue Inc. at
Okay.
that point. Again, a lot of shops back then too. It's not like they were simple shops, to say it
So
nicely.
did you guys
Yeah.
have?
It's a different game back in the
Did
day.
you guys
Yeah.
decide to move to Vegas because of one another?
No, man, we actually had that brief encounter. I can remember that too. That was it. I met Head then, and that was pretty much it. And then we
Yeah,
came
this is
together
what's
again
kind
when I
of
got a
odd.
job with Club Tattoo. So I came back. I came back around because I got a job at Club Tattoo, and it
I
was
heard about him getting hired,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
and I was super.
But you remember? So you
super
remembered who
excited.
he was. It wasn't like okay.
Yeah.
Hedrick had already
Well, I
been there
remember
for a
who he
little while
was.
too. So
Only good vibes, only positive. But I remember him getting hired, and I was waiting to work with him. And then Tony, What did
I-
you get
to thi-
hired, but it
to
not
this day,
work?
man, that shit was all fucked up. I got hired to work in Arizona at one of the shops over there, and then like
Dowdell.
Clip tattoo, yeah.
Sean
So,
Dowdell.
yeah, 3 days before, I'm on the phone with Sean telling him, yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait to show up. Which location? Is it going to be at the Row one or the Mesa one? And he says, oh, no, you're working in Las Vegas. And I'm just like, what, man? Like, I had just moved back to Phoenix 6 months prior and signed a lease and shit like that. And he's like, no, you're going to Las Vegas. So I'm like, fuck, I wanted to make some shit happen. So I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll be there. So yeah, I made it happen and went out to Las Vegas.
Wow.
And worked for Sean out in Las Vegas. But me and Hedrick came back together because I think we had just been in communication.
This is why Tony is a badass.
Yeah.
This is why Tony is a go-getter.
I go with the flow, man. I wanted to make it happen. I was excited. Every place I went when I was looking for a new spot was like, no, Club Tattoo, Club
Yeah,
Tattoo.
and it
I
was,
like, fuck
and
it,
the
I'll go
Club
apply over there.
Tattoo Vegas, dude, when that whole thing went down, it
was-
was kind of
it was
exciting.
big.
It was an
It
exciting
was big.
time.
We made a lot of money
because-
out there.
yeah.
But it was a big thing. It was different, It's where the industry was kind of leading to.
Yeah.
In all honesty, they weren't the only shop doing it, but they were
But
one
so
of
I
the few
mean,
that
you
were doing
literally
it and
like
doing
went
it in
in
a
and
direction
just
like
got
that.
like thrown into the big. You didn't even have to go through the trenches at these
And
crappy little
fucking
small
immediately.
stores.
And they put me out there with this
Yeah.
asshole named fucking Bernie. I still hate that motherfucker. But me and Head met back up. So it was one of those things where I think we just communicated. It was like, yeah, I'm going to be back down in Phoenix. Let's get together. And the second time that me and Head, to this day I remember because it was just a good night. I think it was when me and Head realized that we were going to be such good friends. But to keep a long story short, if you're okay with me sharing the story,
Hell yeah.
we just did a fucking ton of cocaine. Ended up going to a strip club, getting fucking wasted to the point where I remember walking from one strip club to another strip club and just vomiting a fucking ton of fucking cocaine all over the fucking street, doing a bunch more and going to another strip club and just getting wasted to as Hedrick says, to the wee hours of the morning. And then meeting up with, I want to say, his buddy Timo for some breakfast. It got blurry after that, but that was pretty much our next encounter. Was a ton of cocaine, drinking, strippers, vomiting on Scottsdale
that was
fucking
the
road.
First night, and then you guys. That was when
And
the love.
That's when we
came down
sealed the
and-
deal, man.
yeah.
That it was like, yeah, I love that guy. To this day, I love that guy. So, and working
We
at
both-
Club
we-
Tattoo and having. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying when the it was basically like when the planets aligned. You know, it was like this was gonna be the night of all nights. Blah 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 blah.
And
It's
it
gonna
was.
happen, and it's
It
gonna
was,
happen
man.
tonight.
Shortly after that, and working in Las Vegas, I was having issues with that guy Bernie that I mentioned, and kind of
Which
like
I had issues with. In
Hedrick
Arizona.
didn't. Yeah, exactly. Which is why that they had separate, because Hedrick was in Las Vegas before me, had issues out there, said fuck this, I'm going back to Phoenix. Well, I came in after that and took Hedrick's spot. That's how we actually initially met, man. Back up was that you had kind of gave me a run through in Las Vegas
Okay,
before you
yeah,
left back
that's what I
to
was gonna
Phoenix.
say,
There we
that's-
go. That brings back some memory right there.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, so I'm working with Bernie. Bernie's a motherfucker, and being kind of like Hedrick myself, I'm a hustler. And once I realized what it was that made the boss man happy, and that guy Bernie didn't have that, I just pushed everything in my power to get that guy Bernie fired, and eventually got him fired, and got my desire of, I want you to bring Hedrick back out here so that me and Hedrick can work together. And I remember Hedrick even saying too, when I brought it up, I said, man, let's see if we can get you back out here. He's like, you'll never make it happen. Made that shit happen. Yeah, it was awesome.
I got a call from like the owner. He's like, "What would you ever think about going back out to Vegas?" I'm like, "Well, Tony's out there," and he's like, "You guys will probably have a lot of fun."
They got you
Or
guys
something like
back.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
it
it was
was
over.
It was good, man. I gotta say, even for the owner of the shop, as much as I might have ended on pretty bad terms with him because he pisses me off, we killed it out there. He opened
yeah.
up some opportunity for us to do some big work, and me and Hedrick together definitely made that shop pretty fucking fantastic.
How do you think,
Tony.
Oh, go ahead, Ed.
I was gonna say, Paul, it was like the perfect combo. It's like when somebody has a ton of money, and they tell me and Tony, "Hey, just do your thing."
Yeah.
That's what we had,
Yeah.
and it fucking worked, and nobody could ever deny it. And that's probably why the guy has a book out called Tattooed Millionaire.
Yes.
And you guys could check that out. It's on sale at Amazon. Jeff Bezos would love to make money off of you. Sean Dowdell, Jeff Bezos, they're great
So,
people.
so let me
check out
so
the
let me
book.
go back to asking this question, and that's what I'm saying. You guys went out there and killed it and stuff, and you did this Vegas, and you guys came and conquered at whatever age you were. My question is how do you think Vegas? Do you think today Vegas taught you anything? Did you guys learn anything, like, business wise, personal wise?
A shitload of stuff.
Would you ever?
As much as
would
I
you
might
ever
have
go
my
back? Would you ever go
grudges,
back if you got the phone call and said, "Hey, we need
No.
you guys need to go back. We need someone to run the place again."
Never.
Don't work.
Never.
Don't work for people. That's what you learn.
Not for $1 million. No, I learned the depths of the industry to a fact of a lot of people that I know that have very successful multi-businesses in the tattoo piercing industry. It is kind of about everybody's replaceable. They don't treat you like you're going to be around forever. They don't treat you like you're going to be part of something forever, which is, I think, even to this day, why Hedger kind of holds a little bit against the industry in the sense that you're not taken care of. The next guy will come take care of it for you. And I learned that when I left that place, thinking that, man, I'm killing it for these guys. They'll never let me go. They want to take care of me, and I'm going to be part of this place forever. And I was gone in 2 seconds. The second I fucking was gone, it wasn't even like they needed me back. They replaced me in 2 seconds, and I realized, oh, fuck, I am replaceable. And that is something that place taught me, amongst a lot of other good things. Again, as much as I might have some grudges, I learned a lot of good shit from that dude over there as far as the business way. But it wasn't like it's all positive, this is a good part of running the world type thing. It was just business attitude and why these guys make a lot of money.
Hey, Paul.
Paul,
it was super fun. Tony and I, we would be able to go to the Pearson convention and just walk in, and we would have no limit. We would have
hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, just spend it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, spend it. Get what you want.
You do whatever you want, and if you think that it's smart, you do it, and you stick to it, and you will have it.
And honestly,
that's fun.
In Dowdell's defense, too, I mean, we made a lot of fucking money while we were there. Not a percentage of what I look back and think, man, we probably should have made a little bit more with what we were doing, but we did make a decent amount of money. And had we have been smarter with our money back then, maybe we could have done a little something with that money. But that wasn't our attitude either. You know what I mean?
But
we were definitely wound up in Las Vegas.
That was part of the gig. It wasn't just the job. It was living out there, the beer tower.
It was fun.
You know what I'm saying?
We lived on the strip. We worked on the strip. We were in a fancy place. We got fucked up every night. We spent every penny we ever made. We'd get a $500 tip and be like, fuck yeah, roulette table. Let's go get fucked up.
And then you'd hit the gambling.
Over and over and over.
Yeah,
and
every
over,
night,
and
man.
Always lose until we lost it all. Every night.
Yeah, and then you'd still be back there. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't care.
Me and Tony, our favorite thing was going down in the morning. We would wake up, randomly whenever we would wake up. But we would go down, sit at the casino under our place, which we eventually got kicked out of. But we would throw $20 in at the bar, order fancy drinks, and then we would try to sit there and not press buttons for as long as possible and just drink our drinks.
See how long you
drink as much drinks as we can. Eventually say, hey, can I grab another whatever?
Well, the rule is there, if you have $20 in the machine, they'll give you free drinks as long as you're sitting there gambling with at least $20 or more, making dollar bets. So you put $20 in the machine and just start gambling $1 at a time and take advantage of the free drinks. Doesn't always work like that, though. Because sometimes you just accidentally hit max bet, and then you put another 20 in and hit max bet, and put another 20 in. Next thing you know, 3 beers cost you $70.
Yeah.
But
that's usually how it goes, yeah.
Or you'd have your best friend hit your max bet button for you when you have $100 in there.
It's my favorite thing to do.
Lose it all.
Hendrick looks at you and says, "Dog, what should I do?" And you just hit the max bet button for him.
So you're saying you'd be better off just running in one of those little quickie marts and getting one of those big beers for $2 or whatever. That would have been
would not have been nearly as fun, man. We used to have so much fun sitting down in those bars. Those stupid bars below our place where we live. They knew us in there. We were in there every single night and morning and afternoon. My girlfriend Tots, man, like we used to go in there with her and sit at the fucking place. She was 19 when I met her.
See, that's what I mean.
She
So
wasn't allowed to be in there.
that's where it'll be fun, because I don't know anything about that side of you. So that'll be fun when it gets to be your episode.
Yeah,
and Ed can tell
they
me
didn't
a little
belong
bit about
inside of it.
that
I don't-
piece, and you can tell us some stories about that. So let me ask you this. Let's get out of the piercing and tattoo stuff, and we'll kind of wrap it up here. What I want to ask both of you guys this question because I had written it down. What inspires you about just great tattoo artists and piercers? Like what do you think drives you to even be interested in it still today? I don't know whoever wants to go first, because it's a very unique.
You want me to go
It's
first?
a very unique,
Go ahead, buddy.
very unique job.
Go ahead.
First?
Yeah, go ahead. I think we both have different
Yeah, I'm not-
perspectives at this point. So
I'm not into it anymore.
Yeah,
so
but I think,
there's nothing that
there's no
drives
way
me.
you could have. I mean, you've spent a 30-year
There are-
life doing it. So what I'm saying is,
I follow a couple piercers and I follow a couple of tattoo artists that really do. And I've said this many times. There are amazing people in this world, and they do amazing things. Whether it's fucking doing Rubik's cubes, or painting pictures, or tattooing people. And a lot of artists out there are like no-name artists that are not fucking popular, that don't have a following, that will give you a great tattoo and a great experience, and you will never see them with 1 million followers on Instagram. You know, it's just not going to happen. So it's like, it's just tough. You know what I mean? When you kind of have lived the 20 years in the industry, I just hope that everybody's happy and everybody do whatever the fuck they want. You know?
Tony.
I think we have similar views on that. The industry is different, right? And I think that's where Hedge got burned out a little bit too. It used to be a lot more, I don't want to say primitive, but it was. I mean, it was a primitive industry. There was a lot of different reasons behind why we did what we did in our youth and why we got pierced or did piercings or were into it. Not just these days it's a little more fictitious. It's a little bit more.
That's what I was going to ask you. How has it changed over the last? I mean, we're talking now. What?
People used to come into the shop, and when we used to pierce them, it was like you were taking them through something and help them maybe realize something, maybe face something, maybe try to figure out how tough they were, whatever it was that they were doing. It was a little bit more of a personal thing. I think these days when you have a line of 14-year-old girls lined up out the shop to pierce their nose, but it's just so that they can get that Instagram picture. They don't give a fuck about anything else that has to do with it. It gets harder to deal with. You're not dealing with people and connecting with them like you used to 20 years ago. You're just sitting there trying to make somebody happy.
Yeah, there's no.
And it becomes a little bit more.
There's no story behind it anymore. That's.
There's no feeling behind
you know?
it. So I get where the frustration comes.
Yeah.
And then in that too, you know, doing it so long and then seeing it transfer to something like that, it makes it hard to want to sit there and do it. You know, you start feeling like a monkey pushing holes through people instead of connecting with people like you used to.
But Tony, at the same time though, and I know you can agree to this, there's those certain people that once again you have walk into your shop and you have that experience with.
Yeah.
That is undeniable, that it like proves to you why you are doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And it's just so easy, and you have that bond, and it's like, I don't know, it's like you feel like tingly almost that you can have that experience with someone. I
would say on the bi-weekly or something like that, I have a whether it's a simple stupid experience or something along those lines. I had a guy the other day come in, probably like 2 weeks ago actually, and you could tell that he was familiar. I couldn't necessarily make out who he was or what I'd done to him. Well, it turns out that he was in Hawaii on vacation. He had been there 5 years prior with his 95-year-old mother, and I had pierced his 95-year-old mother's ears while they were out there in Hawaii. Well, they went back to the mainland. She died 2 years later.
Oh, wow.
And when he came back out, it had been a few years since she had passed. And when he came in, I put it together.
Yeah.
He had said, I think, he said, you pierced my mother's ears. And right away, I remembered, and I said, oh, shit. And I actually had a picture of it. I had a picture of me and his mom still on my phone from that 5 years or 4 years prior, whenever it was. So I brought that picture up and showed it to him. And he said, holy shit, you do remember my mom. You do remember me. You do have a picture of her. I made that guy's whole entire trip, and it made me tingly too, in a sense. It was just like, wow, this is really, that was cool. I know we've been in contact since. He's emailed me a couple times, you know what I mean? Just saying thank you, and it made my whole trip and this and that. So it may be even different in the sense of I made their day from a whole piercing, but there's different ways you connect with people, and that was one of the ways that I connected with somebody that I could tell it made a difference in their life. I think in any job you can do that if you take your shit seriously and really love what you do.
That's exactly what I was going to say,
know?
Tony, is I think everyone has that. I think the job always becomes the job, no matter how much you say you like it, right? It's always a job.
Well,
but then when you get to, even when I meet someone and they're, you have that connection, you're like, oh, someone else that wants to do it right and wants to do it the way, you immediately have that, I have that connection with them, like, okay, this project's going to turn out good, right? Because
exactly.
You're like-minded. So yeah, that's totally, so do you miss that head now that you're semi-retired or whatever you want to call yourself? What do we call you? Yeah.
Well, I don't, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, man. I think that's something for me, and I think that's almost why I think I got a little bit of, like, burnt out on it, I guess I would say, is that, like, I do feel like I do give a lot to what I do.
Always,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, I don't, it's like, and I agree with the same with Tony and even our buddy Brad. It's like, dude, we're like so fucking intense it like bothers people. We want things to be great and we want to.
But you're like that with everything. Though.
Amazing
That's what we just got done. That's what I feel like this last hour. You know.
But Paul, I get. But
Yeah.
that's why, of
Yeah.
course. But I think that's why it makes it so upsetting when it's like somebody's doing something because of a bet, or.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, because of the boxer losing the match last night, I gotta pierce my nipple.
I know, I totally
like,
Yeah.
I think that Hedrick's last few places that he worked at weren't necessarily directed in the way that Hedrick likes to work too. And Club Tattoo included in that. I think it was the beginning of it, and I think that it left a sour taste in his mouth. You know what I mean? And I get that because I was in line with that too. I mean, when I left Club, I was sour as fuck.
So can I ask
I don't
this
know,
question?
man. I've been babied, but
Can I ask this question?
yeah.
Why in the world would you not be in Hawaii working with Tony then?
That's a good question too. Because I'll tell you what.
doesn't make
I'll
any sense
but
if you think about it.
before he answers that, I'm gonna throw in there that for the first 2 or 3 years out here, I begged Hedrick not only to come out here, but offered to give him half of what I was doing in order to come out here and just fucking be my friend and work with me.
What I mean is,
And
why
I
don't
could
you
not
guys
get
just
him to come
open
out
your
here.
own thing out there? You and Head do your deal.
I was gonna give him half of what I was doing, and like, let's do it together. Like I was already fucking killing it when I offered Hedrick to come out here. I was already killing it.
Would you?
It was
Head,
like a walk-on
would
deal. Like you could have came out and just killed it.
Would Head? Do you think Head would break his retirement if that was the case, though, or do you think he's really retired?
We're
think
gonna
Head would
leave
be
that
having
for
fun
the
out here.
Lolo.
For the next one.
For the Lolo
Okay.
episode, no. For the Lolo
Because
episode,
I have a feeling.
I do think part of that has to do with that Hedrick is actually,
No, man.
although Hedrick's a motherfucker,
dude,
he's a pretty decent husband, and he knows that he couldn't move here
I'm just joking.
without
Yeah.
pissing. It's not what Lo's into, and I can respect that too. Like my girl doesn't want to do certain things.
Yeah.
You know, my girl doesn't want to move to California. I'm not going to move to California as much as I'd love to be next to Hedrick. You know what I mean?
Well,
so I can see why he wouldn't want to move to Hawaii. And Hawaii's tough too because it's far.
That's a good segue to my last bullet point, which I had was marriage. So we fast forwarded. You guys met it. I
Oh, so your last bullet point was starting an argument.
Well,
no, I'm just joking.
I think that's where we can.
Hold on, I'm starting my third.
Okay, well I'll start this
Dude,
while
I'm
you're
on-
doing that.
I was just opening box number 4 too. Lo's trying to fucking wreck us though. There are 2 shots in box number 4, dude.
Yeah,
Yep, I already did both of mine.
And one of them looks like a double shot for sure.
All right, so
No, I think
so
they're both
Tony,
singles.
so
You're good.
Tony, I'm
Keep going.
fast forwarding to Vegas. So I come out to Vegas. That's the first time I get to meet Lo. Is at Vegas.
Yeah.
She goes to a concert with us. Is I believe the first time I ever got to meet her. Is we showed up to see
What a doll.
We showed up to see a concert, and that was the first time I got to meet her. So that's where, I mean, that was just an awesome trip, you know, to be able to come out to Vegas and
I met Lo
see
before
your
Hedrick
crazy,
did.
Paul,
your
Tony,
craziness.
who would put up with me? Who would put up?
Well, that
with
could
this?
be a whole podcast by itself. Yeah, we could talk about
I
that.
wake up
You know.
sometimes at 7 in the morning, and I'll slam like 8 oil cans before it's noon, and then I'm just wasted at noon when my wife's waking
Yeah,
up.
but what I'm saying is, I kind
and
of
she's
felt
like, "What have you been doing?" I'm like, I have cubing competitions on the 70-inch big screen, and I have oil cans smashed all over the place, and I have cubes laying around. Oh,
But I kind of
man.
feel like
I need to quit drinking.
kind of feel like
Oh wait, this is my.
I
last
kind of
night.
feel like what I'm saying is I feel like when we first, I met Lo at that concert, I kind of knew like this is gonna be the girl. Like I kind of knew like when I saw you.
How do you?
When I saw you guys together,
think?
I just meant like she just seemed like she never really
Something
put
about
up
it?
with your bullshit. Like she always wasn't like afraid to kind of call
Dude,
you
she
out.
puts up with so much bullshit from that guy these days.
I mean, she wasn't afraid to call him out. I had never, I mean, all the girls Head would bring around. They'd be all these like little shy girls and all like, oh hey, and then Lo is just one of those people that wasn't afraid to smack him if you said something stupid, or if she wanted to have a corn dog and he wanted to have a hamburger, they got corn dogs, And so,
Oh, for sure, we're eating corn dogs. That's my wife. No.
and so I just mean like, she
No, I
stood
know
up,
what you
she
mean.
stood her ground to you.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I don't know, man. I was at a weird point in
Yeah.
my life, but man, Tony, Tots, you know what I mean? Basically my roommates at the time up in those VR towers, getting pushed into jacuzzis. You know, they told me they're like, this is
I know.
the
That's
girl,
what I'm
man.
saying, yeah.
You need to not fuck this up, And I tried my best, at least for a little while, and then I married her, and then I was like, "Fuck yeah, now I can do whatever the fuck I want."
And so that's where we're at today. So what's the next adventures, I guess, for the Hedrick to follow up here and follow out, I guess I should say.
I'm gonna stop drinking. I can't wait until the next episode. I've been thinking about maybe what I want to do for our episodes. I think I might get like a nice cool like a cool teapot or something like that. Get into like drinking like tea.
Yeah.
Like fancy tea where you get just the thing, you get the little fancy. I don't know, might be kind
You
of
could
cool.
do that,
We
or
could
you why don't
drink tea together.
I know you go down to the coffee shops a lot. I guess what I'm saying is, have you ever done like that pour over, like coffee and stuff, where you do like the filters and you put the coffee in there and do the hot water over the top? It's good, dude. You do your own.
You gonna
cold
have Lolo
brew?
sure,
send
but-
us boxes with tea in it?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, by the time that Tony actually gets online and we can have our fucking podcast, my fucking pour over coffee would have been fucking cold as fuck.
What is the what I'm saying is
It would have been iced coffee by
but
now.
what is going to be the next step then for you after the drink? What I'm saying is you're going to stop drinking because of why, and then what are you going to do? You're going to do some cubes. We're going to see some streaming. What are we going to see next here?
I think I need to re-examine my life.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I need to like focus on.
Yeah.
I need to like figure out what's important, and I need to start spending more time with my wife
Yeah.
and not being so drunk all the
Yeah.
time. I need to focus on the things that are more important. Yeah, but we'll figure that out as it.
Let me ask you
comes,
Let me
I
ask you
think.
this, Tony. You can answer this, and then.
I keep looking at that picture of the kid with the brace on
on
his
it?
legs.
It looked like you.
But that guy looks like he looks super old though. He's like real big.
Well, listen, that's,
He's a
listen, this poor kid, Tony.
Why is he so big and old? But can you give us a kid picture with the braces for the chapter info?
We can
please?
put one in there for
That
that.
looks
That
weird.
one's too big.
That looks like Napoleon Dynamite in a weird leg brace.
But that is kind of that is what it looked like.
But I looked like a little.
Yeah.
Paul's
Napoleon
like, that's what
Dynamite.
you look like, dude.
I'm kind of like,
But a little.
here.
But I was a mini Napoleon Dynamite,
there's only
right?
so many.
A little tiny kid.
There's.
I was
Oh,
only
he's into
5.
the-
It's a little bit,
Tony's
I
getting
should at
into
least
the
be able
rum.
to fit into the screen.
Yeah, I'll find a better picture of it that represents it. I wish we could go back. I wish I had a picture where we could.
Oh God, I wish you had a
We'll
picture
find
of
one
him.
of me.
Here.
I'll contact our dad and see if he can find one for us, even if he has to do some insurgent in for
Your dad's just a
Find
big
a little
asshole as
picture
you.
for-
That's probably the picture he has of you sitting on his ledge. It's you and your braces. He's like, that was
just
my
to
dummy
laugh
kid.
at me or what?
Yeah.
There we go. I just sent you another one. You can see if this one that one looks better.
There you
You know
go.
what I mean?
That looks a little
is
more
that
innocent.
me?
It looks like you kind of.
Is
No,
that
It
me?
just looks like you kind of. Yeah.
Oh,
That's not another
Cue
picture.
ball and some peanut butter whiskey.
that's what I remember right there. There was no bar.
No.
All right, we came, we conquered.
I
We
don't
have
think.
2 minutes left. Who wants to wrap up for the last 2 minutes? We're gonna hit this right at one. We're gonna hour and 30 minutes. We're gonna be out of here. So who wants to hit it up? Loud, you guys. Whoever. We have 2 minutes left.
Hedrick, it was all about you, man.
Yeah,
so why
dude.
don't you
In honor of
why don't
you.
you wrap it up?
You have
dog?
last words.
Well, I would like to start with saying I do feel very blessed that I had a great childhood where I had a brother that I could kind of follow after. And I know that I kept saying, like, oh, it was just because I imitated you. But it was all out of love, and it was something that I was passionate about. But it was because I had love for you, and I looked up to you so much. I don't think it's normal for a dude to let a 4.5-year younger brother hang out with his friends to the point that he ends up, like, being in punk rock bands and or doing, like, hardcore bands with his friends and stuff. That's weird, dude. It's super weird. But I am super appreciative of it. And I'm also super appreciative of my best friend Tony, because we got to party and we got to, let loose, and we got to have such a good time. And
we had some really good times,
I don't know.
Some really fucking good times.
And I appreciate Tony
unforgettable.
today. I mean, because here you are. I mean, how many years later? I mean, what was that? What are we going on now? I mean, when was that? What year is that, Tony?
I mean, actually hanging out 10, 11 years.
See what I'm saying? So now we're going on a decade, and what
Yeah.
I'm saying, you guys, we're just, as close. You're just as close as ever, and yeah, that's super cool. So,
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
bugging
it,
him
man.
every day. I bug you guys
Every
constantly.
fucking
and I love
day.
And I love it.
I'm on
I'll
like
bug you
5
at
different
7 in the
chats.
morning.
At least 5 different chats with Hedrick. And he'll be talking to everybody on different chats. So I'll wake up and have 60 missed messages, and it's like 4 different chats, and it's all fucking Hedrick.
I'll be arguing with everybody at the same time.
You are deliberately forgetting who you really are. You are deliberately forgetting who